important question. And many people don't realize that the United States gives about $40 billion a year in foreign aid to over 150 countries. And we've been doing that since 1948. As we mentioned, Israel receives about $3.1 billion in foreign aid. That's divided between economic aid and military aid. And about 20% of that aid, 20% of that $3 billion, goes to foreign military sales. So what that means is we give money to Israel, and then they use that money to buy our military equipment, our airplanes. And you may say, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Why don't we just buy it direct? But what happens is that means the Israelis, through those purchases, are supporting U.S. businesses and U.S. workers. In fact, just in California, the defense industry employs 160,000 workers. That's more than any other state in the country. So actually, our foreign aid and our foreign military sales help to promote U.S. business right here in California. That aid is also used for research in science and technology, for energy cooperation, for co-production of the Iron Dome, and also for IMET. IMET is the International Military Education and Training Fund. And what that means is we have international students who do exchanges and come here to the United States to study. In fact, at the Naval Postgraduate School, we have 233 international students from 50 countries, and they are funded through IMET funding, which is part of our foreign aid budget. So foreign aid actually, I believe, does a lot of good. I think those are important investments in our partners and allies, and I think they are investments that need to continue. The real question is, does foreign aid lead to peace? And there is a lot of debate about this, and there's actually a lot of literature written about this on both sides. Some argue that foreign aid is just a waste of money, and there's actually no proof that it leads to peace and stability. And then there is some writing on the other side that says, actually, if the U.S. can contribute to reducing poverty, reducing the spread of disease, and providing for economic stability, that then you have a population that is less likely to be violent and less likely to break out in conflict. So in the case of other countries in the region, we don't just provide foreign aid to Israel, but we provide foreign aid to all of Israel's neighbors. I mentioned that Israel is surrounded by threats. It's what they call the first circle. They are encircled by threats. Well, we don't just provide foreign aid to Israel. We provide foreign aid to Lebanon, to Iraq, to Turkey, to Jordan, to Bahrain, to Oman, to countries throughout the region, because regional stability is our objective. Of course, we want to have a strong and secure and stable Israel, but we also want to have a strong and secure and stable region. So we provide aid throughout the region, and those are important investments. Think of it this way. Valentine's Day is coming up. For you men in the audience, hopefully you will get flowers for your spouses. Yes? Yes. Okay. But if the only thing you did was get flowers, and that you did nothing else all year, would that be enough to sustain a healthy relationship? No. That's what I think about foreign aid. It's important, but it's one tool, right? It can't be the only thing that we do. It can't be our only level of engagement, right? You have to do other things throughout the year to keep that relationship healthy, right? Same with foreign aid. Foreign aid is one tool, but we also need to have our commercial relationships, we need to have diplomacy, we need to have open and frank communication. So we need the investments in foreign aid, but we also have to put it in the context of being one tool in our toolbox of many tools of U.S. foreign policy.
When it comes to foreign aid, the biggest problem right now is that the United States is not viewed as a reliable partner. That outshines any foreign aid that we can give them. The failure to act on the red line in Syria sent a bad message. The nuclear arms agreement with Iran conveyed a message that the U.S. is moving away from traditional allies and moving towards playing the Iran Shia card. Thus, the U.S. needs to do some work to demonstrate its commitment to Middle East peace. The U.S. must renew and ratify the 10-year plan, as I spoke of earlier, because without it, that can lead to war. And you've heard the Iron Dome mentioned, and that's correct. Because in 2012, prior to that, the United States gave hundreds of millions of dollars to Israel to bolster that defense system. And it did stop 85% of the missiles that rained down on the Israeli people and posed a serious threat. And because of that, that prevented Israel from having to widen the war. So the more that the U.S. promotes the security for Israel, the more Israel can promote peace. The U.S. must continue aid for other nations in that region as well, to those countries, those people who are willing to make peace. Because domestic aid enhances the quality of life for people in those countries, and the better the quality of life, the less likely they'll become extremists. And the United States must establish a Middle East alliance with Israel, Gulf Arab nations, and the European allies, with the purpose to defeat ISIS, to force a political transition in Syria away from Assad, and contain Iran's terrorist support in the region. Such an alliance would make clear where the United States stood by providing both military and civilian aid to our allies and coordinating military efforts in the region. The U.S. must act, and it must act from strength, because that will provide stronger leverage for diplomatic negotiations with Russia, with Syria, and Iran. And then when Israel faces terrorism, we stand up forcefully and proudly in defense of our ally, our friend, and our family member. Thank you.